Hi everyone, welcome to the Aftershocks of After Loss. I am Rachel Donnelly and I am going to invite Kristin Vaughn of Hindman Auctions to join us. And let's see if I can get her on right now. I hope everybody's having there we go. Invited her. Everybody's having a great Wednesday. Today on the Aftershocks of After Loss, we are going to talk about all things working with an auction house. So if we can get Kristin on here, we will get started. So just bear with me, guys. This is the wonder of Instagram Live. You just go live and pray that everything goes well. Let's see. Let's see if we can get her on. Let's see. There she is. Let's see. Hi, there you are. How are you?
Good, good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great. I can hear you great. And I just realized now that I forgot my earbuds, but you know what? We're just gonna go for it.
No, this is perfect. I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, good. Good. I hope everybody out there can hear me. Like I said, when you go live with Instagram Live, you just hit go and you pray that everything is going to go well. So, all right. So I would love it, even though it says Christy, but Kristin Vaughn, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell us all about you and what you do with Hindman Auctions.
Thank you, Rachel. Yes, I'm Kristin Vaughn, and I work with Hindman Auctions. I have been with Hindman for nearly 12 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I actually opened the very first regional office for our firm, actually back in Naples, Florida.
Oh my gosh.
Recently, I would say about 2.5 years ago, moved here to Atlanta to run the Atlanta. So I cover all of Georgia, Tennessee, and the Carolinas. So I've got a pretty big territory for our company, but we've got about 13 offices across the country, and we're growing. So it's a really exciting time to be with our firm.
That's awesome. So, I know we're going to just break it down working with an auction house today, because I think some people, the thought of working with an auction house is so just mysterious and overwhelming, and they see these things on TV and they have this idea of how it's supposed to go. So we're going to break it all down, everybody, but this is part of my weekly series of the Aftershocks of After Loss, and I'm Rachel Donnelly with Black Dress Consultants, and each time we go live I try to tackle some sort of a thread or that happens when you lose a loved one. And one of the biggest questions I get is what to do with all the stuff. Like I like to say, life is short, the days are long, but the stuff is forever. And one of the biggest questions, the second question is, what is it worth? And is it worth anything? So we're going to break all of that down today. So tell us about Hindman Auctions and how that compares to other auction houses and maybe the different types.
Right. So there's multiple levels of auction houses. A lot of people, when they think of selling artwork and jewelry and furniture and decorative objects, they're either thinking of the very high at a Sotheby's or a Christie's level,
right,
or thinking of the very low, and that's going to be your estate liquidation company or maybe like a one-shop country auction house. But
Mm-hmm.
what people often forget about is the middle market. And more
Yeah.
people have things that fall within the middle market
Mm-hmm.
than the very high and the very low. So when we define middle market, we really, it's a pretty wide range for values. It's anywhere between about $1,000 up to $1 million.
Okay.
And I know people say, wow, that's,
That's quite a range.
a big range. I would say our sweet spot for handling collectibles and artwork and things of that nature is really going to fall between maybe a few $1,000s and about 300 to 400,000. That's what you're going to see a lot of in our auctions. And why you would want to go with a middle market firm as opposed to maybe an ultra high end firm,
Yeah, I think that this is a good thing to understand.
Yeah, if the firm is typically dealing with that kind of $1 million plus level,
Right.
you may not necessarily get the time and the attention that you're going to need for your $20,000 or $30,000 painting.
Got it.
Whereas with us, we're going to really be excited to have that. It might even be
Mm-hmm.
something that gets promoted through advertising.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a much bigger deal, for us to handle things at that level. So certainly I always recommend, if you've got questions, reaching out to whoever you trust, whoever might be local, but definitely go high before you go low.
Yeah.
So many referrals from, terrific firms like Sotheby's and Christie's, and beyond Hindman, as far as the middle market, there are terrific firms across the country like Heritage or Doyle or Bonhams, Skinner.
Right.
There are so many that are all, really on that middle market level.
Got it. I think that that's such an important distinction to clarify, because I think everybody thinks, oh, auction house, it must be, high end Sotheby's, Christie's style, Renoirs, and all those things. But I really think it's important people to be able to distinguish those and utilize those different options.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, if you have something that really needs that marketing reach,
Right.
Don't want to just put it in an estate sale where you're just going to have your neighbors and maybe a few dealers coming in to buy things, and then everything gets discounted a couple days later.
Yeah.
With that said, there are also smaller auction houses that are really great for what they're good for, but often don't have specialists. They're not necessarily, vetting the property that comes in. So if you're a buyer at that auction house, you really have to be mindful, what you're bidding on. Is that Picasso an actual, print, or is it a later reproduction?
Yeah.
Just things that you should be mindful of. And same thing as a seller, making sure that you're working with a reputable firm, that you're getting an inventory list or that's itemized when you go into consign, and you're not necessarily getting that. The more you kind of go down the food chain on the auction house, you're not getting that level of service that you would when you're working with somebody at the middle market level or higher.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think that people are sort of living this all or nothing. So they either go all estate sale, or they, or they try to push everything to high end, and then they just end up, doing one or the other.
That's a really good point you're making. I do deal with a lot of family members that at a certain point, they just start getting exhausted.
Yeah.
They will say to me, I want to work with one firm who handles everything. And I get it. And certainly if they have a lot of really terrific higher end things that in a normal environment might have been going to Christie's or Sotheby's, sure, I'm like, we'll take everything.
Yeah.
But if they've got a lot of things, for us, but then half of the estate is really going to be better off for an estate sale or an assignment store or getting donated, then what you don't want to do is drag down a sale with kind of mediocre things that really aren't going to do well in that particular sale environment.
Exactly.
You should be working with a firm who you trust. You should be working with a rep who you're looking at more as an advisor than just somebody who's coming in and taking, your
Right. And that's what I always, not to toot my own horn, but it is my IG live, so I guess I'll toot my own horn. But that's what one of the services that I provide when I work for clients, because that is what I needed when I experienced cleaning out estates, is someone to go through and chunk things and say, okay, I'm going to send pictures of these things, which I've done with you now. Send pictures of things to Kristin. I'm going to, call the Atlanta Mission or the thrift store on this one, and then we're going to try to sell these. So sort of putting things in bite-sized chunks and not doing this one size fits all. So
yeah, that's a really good way to go. I always advise, if you really don't know, if you're walking into an estate cold, let's say, let's say if you're an executor of an estate and maybe you're not, like a daughter or a son of the people who passed away, maybe you're unfamiliar with the property. If you haven't already been advised to get some type of inventory appraisal, that sometimes could be a good idea to get an independent appraisal, just so that you have a good inventory list of major items. That's certainly something that we, I'm working on a collection actually right now where an estate tax appraisal needed to be done. And the original goal was to do the appraisal, and then the client was going to put everything in storage, take a breather, and then, maybe in a few months, a year, come back to us, sell items. Well, while we're in the middle of doing the appraisal, it's like everything pivoted, and she just decided, storage is going to be a lot. I've talked it over with my siblings. We don't want this stuff, and it just really needs to be sold. Can you handle everything? And
I know.
Broke down handle at auction, and then there's going to be an estate sale later this month for the rest of the things.
I was reading an article about how much people spend on storage by putting things that they're valuable or what they think are valuable. They end up spending more storing them, and they could have replaced them down the road than just by, selling them to begin with.
Yeah, and I think exactly. Yes, exactly. You and I definitely sing the same song there. Sometimes storage can have its benefits. If you needed to take that breather, but gosh, the financial responsibility of that, plus all the extra moving around, you're certainly risking a collection of getting damaged should something happen or lost. So the more times you move things around, you're opening up collection to risk. So we always try to advise against that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so describe your typical day. Like, what kind of collections do you get to see? Like, I'm sure people are sure people ask you this at dinner all the time. Like, what did you see today? Or tell me about something that was really cool.
Oh yeah, you're definitely hitting on a question that I get asked a lot. Anytime I go to a cocktail party, at the moment somebody finds out what I do for a living, they're like, wow, what kind of things do you see? Or I have this, antique map that I found in my grandmother's attic. And I love hearing those stories, and love, talking to people about what I do. I think what's the old adage that, if you love what you do, it never feels like work. So a typical day, for me, can involve anything from doing a walkthrough at a client's home to evaluate whether or not the collection or even a single object is right for our firm, to attending events or other meetings with professionals who I get referrals from. But I can tell you that the auction business is a people business, and there is never a dull moment. Our phones are constantly ringing off the hook. Our email inboxes are constantly full with requests. We are always inundated with inquiries from people wanting to sell things, wanting to find out if what they have is valuable and is something that they could potentially bring to auction. So certainly spend a lot of my time looking at collections, and people think my job is really glamorous, and don't get me wrong, it certainly is. But there are points that aren't so glamorous. Like, for example, once items come in to be sold, there's a lot of work that has to be done. And a lot of this happens behind the scenes people don't see. So we have to inventory and catalog things. We have to photograph things. And so that's why sometimes we do tend to be a little selective on what we bring in, because we want items to sell. Our company has about an 85 to 90% sell through per auction.
Wow.
And
that's a great rate.
It is. We're very proud of that. And we want to make sure that when we're advising our clients to sell with us, that we're advising them on things that would make sense for them. Because the last thing we want our clients to do is have to move things, think that they're, wrapped up with an estate, think that they can move on with their lives. And in 3 months or 6 months, they don't want to call from us saying, hey, this didn't sell. What do you want to do? Do you want to date it? Should we reoffer it? Nobody wants that phone call, and we certainly don't want to make them. So we can minimize that as much as possible. And that's by curating our sales, being very selective in what comes in. With that said, we are also very welcoming of things when we are working with large collections and estates. We certainly are considerate and mindful if somebody does, really have the need to liquidate as many things as possible.
Right.
We certainly take that into consideration. So we really do try to work with people on as much sellable property as possible, but we're also constantly advising, saying, this is where the estate liquidator needs to come in, or someone else.
Well, how do you guys decide the value? Like, I think that is such a mysterious and subjective process.
Sure. Oh,
how do you do that?
Subjective.
Yeah.
You use the right word there. Value is subjective, because certainly if you've had a painting in your family for generations, you're going to think more highly of it, and you're going to think that it's more valuable than maybe it is. Family lore is always a fun one to us, where someone's great grandmother told them that these things belong in museums and whatnot, and certainly that may be the case. But when we go to value something, we're first looking at current auction records. So we want to look at comparable sales, recent comparable sales. So we don't mean a sale that happened 10 or 20 years ago. I mean, if you get 5 years, it's really ancient history in our world. So it's a bit like real estate. When you go to price a home, your realtor is going to look at what's similar in your neighborhood. Do you have that updated kitchen or bath? What does your next door neighbor's house sell for? And it's going to be priced comparable. And so that doesn't mean necessarily for auctions where the actual sale happened. We might price something at, let's say, $20,000 to $30,000, and it brings over $30,000. Let's just say that's a great day for that project. And we're really, that result. And let's say something similar comes in, later on. Do we start at that high price? No, we're going to start again at that low price. And hopefully lightning will strike twice and that item will do well. But we are going to be basing it off of what is happening in the market. And when I'm talking about the market, I know I just used a real estate metaphor, but I do want to switch back to what the market actually means when we're talking about the auction world. Our market is the market for a particular genre or category. So there's a market for French furniture or old master paintings or Disney memorabilia. Those are all different category markets that we're looking at to see what's happening with that market and where we can price that object. And all auction houses, appraisers, and dealers follow a few simple rules there. The first one being comparables, but then there's just a few other criteria that we're all looking for. So I'll just break down a couple. I won't bore you too much, and but one can be rarity. Certainly, rarity is important. You know, we just sold a really impressive diamond that was well over 5 carats, D flawless. It was absolutely stunning. We
Oh, now
priced
you're
it at
speaking my language.
285,000.
You're, you're speaking my
And it
love
brought
language
well
now.
over it brought well over that auction estimate. It ended up selling for nearly $400,000, which was a really exciting diamond price because
Wow.
that particular is incredibly transparent as far as prices. There's very little margin for, you know, a high price in the diamond market right now, just because it's such a transparent market. But it just had all the right factors to it. It was rare because it was D flawless. It was a terrific size. It was large, but not too large.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'd play tennis wearing it, but it was still just absolutely mesmerizing piece.
It wasn't Kim Kardashian
you know,
big.
You know, size. You know, it was maybe something she'd give to her children because I think it was a little over 5 carats.
Okay.
So size. Size is another thing that we factor in. I mean, unless we are talking about a large diamond, size sometimes isn't always everything. When we have giant, oversized rugs and carpets, you know, somebody may have paid $20, $40, $75,000 for that at one point, but they're probably going to see these rugs offered in the low thousands, maybe tops 10,000. So at auction, it kind of obviously it depends on what the pattern is, you know, but you're going to see something, you know, like that starting at maybe a quarter of the value, and that can be shocking to people.
That is a
really about a
that's a really hard pill for people to swallow, and especially when I'm working with executors and surviving loved ones, and they're like, but my grandmother, you know, she was part of this large, you know, furniture making family, and her great grandfather hand carved it with, you know, and that's something that I think it's really hard for them to get over. And that sort of leads into my next topic of what's hot and what's not, because the big brown furniture is the tough part of cleaning out of states right now. Is the big brown furniture.
And and you're using the right words again. Big brown furniture. Small brown furniture sometimes can still find a buyer, but when you have a huge wall unit cabinet, whether it's brown or if you painted it the hottest color right now, you're going to have a hard time, you know, moving it. And at auction, very often we're just not even taking those things. And the reason why is because of the fashion. You know, fashion is another area that we use when we're valuing. And if a piece has fallen out of fashion, then there's not really much of a use for it. And so it's not going to have as high of a value. A good example would be the armoires. As beautiful as that piece of furniture is, think about what most people used an armoire for. Now, unless you have a home that was built in the 1900s with no closet space, you're using your armoire for your TV.
Your clothes.
Now that everybody has the flat screen, you know, now that flat screens, nobody's using armoires anymore. I mean, again, unless you have zero closet space, and there are homes like that certainly, but you know, for the most part, you can find armoires selling or not selling at auction for around $500, and that's really sad.
Or less.
But those are things.
Or
if
way
you can
less.
get a taker on it.
Yeah.
Right. Most people don't want to go through the hassle or expense of shipping something like that. So whether it's bringing it in or taking it out of the auction sale room, it's a challenge. So we tend to stay away from things like that. But I really don't think that people should get discouraged about the market for brown wood furniture. And that's a loving term of endearment that we use. I know it sounds kind of neat, but brown wood furniture, it's certainly jargon for the auction world. You know, there's certain markets that we are seeing a little bit of an uptick. Over the last year, our furniture department let us know that they saw about a 25 to 35% increase in some of their early American, French, or other kind of continental furniture as far as what was happening with the. Now, this could be a little bit of a bubble. COVID is certainly playing into this. There's a lot of dealers and designers and even private individuals that aren't able to get things out of Europe right now, or it's taking months and months and months to get things out. So they're turning to domestic houses as a way to, source furniture for their clients. So it's good for us, it's good for our sellers, and we're going to continue to push those sales, for as long as we can. So if you have furniture, don't just think you need to send it to Goodwill. I think it's important that you're talking to an auction house advisor and seeing, what can actually happen. Set yourself up for some disappointment for value or even rejection, and then be happy if it ends up going to auction.
Yeah, that's my tip when working with clients is high hopes, low expectations sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. But I know you also want to hear about what's hot in the market.
I do.
So the hot items that we're seeing, obviously jewelry, I already mentioned that already.
Right.
I could talk to you all day about jewelry auctions and why selling things like your diamonds and your colored gemstones or your important designers and makers, or even period jewelry, something from the 1920s, is going to be important right now. But I'd rather focus on a couple other categories that might not be quite as known that are really heating up. First, the collectibles market. The collectibles market is going insane right now.
You're not talking about Beanie Babies, are you?
No. The Beanie Babies would not be something that we're talking about at all. Another criteria we look for is rarity. Remember that. Think about that diamond. Baby is not considered rare. So I don't care if it's rainbow or whatever it is. It's not necessarily considered, rare.
Yeah.
So anyhow, as far as, what is really hot that people may not necessarily know about, it is the collectibles market. I'm kind of wondering if it has anything to do with generation, Gen X buyers, being at that level where they're really making, kind of those extra purchases. When I'm seeing things like Kurt Cobain's sweater selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, that should tip you off that the collectibles market is pretty hot. Right now, if you have game-worn Michael Jordan sneakers, please call me. We will immediately put those into a sports memorabilia sale.
Okay, so everybody, if you're out there, if you have Michael Jordan original sneakers in your parents' closet or your brother's closet.
Air Jordan.
Yes, Air Jordans, yes. Call us.
It's incredible sneakers, but they do. They want that piece of history. So, the collectibles market is certainly a really important category. Also, kind of, alongside the collectibles market is the history category. This is an area that, I think most people would think, oh, people aren't interested in history, or people, that may be something kind of the past and nobody wants. But presidential documents are really hot. If you have a letter from Abraham Lincoln, that's going to be really important. There's a lot of museum interest and things like this because they're so rare. And if we don't, continue to account for them, they're going to disappear. So there's a lot of, collection managers out there that are looking for, very specific pieces. So certainly know about that. Also, just kind of something that, a lot of people don't think about, I think when people think about the hot market, they think about artwork. They think about post-war and contemporary art. But what they don't understand is that, yes, while nobody's really buying landscape paintings with cows, if you do have works by important artists that are more of that traditional, look, it's really worth asking about the auctionability for something like that, because you just never know. I have a client who has a Montague Dawson painting, and that's a British maritime artist that's really well known. And I want to say they bought this painting about 30 years ago for about $80,000. And they were really expecting the market to have been, just to have completely tanked on this. They're like, nobody's buying these. Will we ever even just get our money back?
Yeah.
Well, the auction estimate is a little bit lower, but not by much. And so they were really pleasantly surprised. And since they're downsizing, they're like, that one will go. So I think it's always
Wow.
worth the ask to find out, kind of what's still, exciting at auction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great point. Just ask. And that's, like I said, what I do when working with clients is say, you know what, let's just take pictures, send them in, see what people think, see what Kristin thinks. And if not, at least we asked. So she's not like, oh, that's actually a Van Gogh, but that you didn't know was one. So how do you handle problem property like ivory, forgeries, like even mink or fur coats? Like I inherited my grandmother's entire fur collection, and I feel so weird wearing it. I'm afraid someone's going to throw red paint on me, like a la Sex of the City, and that I'm going to be outcasted from society. So what do you do with problem pieces like that?
Well, so a lot of the, kind of quote unquote problem property we don't handle. So for
Okay.
ivory, no one is selling. No one wants to go to federal prison. So we're all staying away from it. It doesn't matter if you have a letter of authenticity. I mean, it has to go through some pretty serious testing in order to prove that it's that early. So we just usually turn it down. Things like fur, you can still sell, things like minks. It's rather, it's really more that not as many people are interested in buying them.
Yeah.
There's a few reasons why. One of them certainly being just wearing fur that, people sometimes have, kind of the un-PC, reasons
Yes.
for wearing fur. But a lot of times it's more with traditional minks that are brown or black. Those colors just aren't as popular. So, Christian Dior
Yeah.
and Yves Saint Laurent, some really fabulous that are in kind of wild, hot colors that are a little bit more popular. So if you want fur or if you want to sell fur, it needs to be fashionable and current right now. One of the other categories for problem properties that we see a lot is firearms. What do you do with the firearms that come up through a state? So our company, we do have arms and armor department, and we are always looking for historical firearms and other types of militaria. With modern guns, if they come up in an estate, we do have a way of handling them, and we do have the expertise needed for just the change in title and the licensing of that. Also, the pickup for them. You're not going, if you have a collection of whether it's historical or modern guns, you're not going to get me showing up with the typical moving crew. You are going to get one of our gun experts coming in to check and make sure it's unloaded and everything's safe, and then getting everything wrapped up and properly transported. So there is a way of doing it, and there's a way of handling that sale that we have the expertise to do. You also mentioned forgeries. Well, absolutely. We are not going to, handle anything that is problematic or can't be authenticated. There are a number of artists out there that have catalog resumes that we first check the works against that. So we want to make sure that those works are listed through that, registered book that, accounts for all the works, by that artist. We recently had a client here in my region that had a very small Renoir painting. And the family lore had said that it came from a great uncle who had bought it directly from the artist while he was living in France. And that's great, and that's a great story, but we can't just offer it without having it authenticated. So we sent the painting to Wildenstein, which is a gallery in Paris, and they currently authenticate all Renoirs. Luckily, we got the thumbs up. It turned out that it was right. And we were able to offer it in our September auction just a couple of weeks ago. And it brought $400,000 at auction, which for a small Renoir of just flowers, that was a really great price. And so the family that we were working with, they were really happy to see that we were able to get it authenticated. Of course, they never quite knew for sure. So to be able to have that sale happen, they were, really happy about that. So
That's awesome. That is so exciting. I'm sure that was a very happy moment for them as a family to say, and they're like, I told you so.
it was.
Well, since it is National Estate Planning Month, one of the things that I think is
Yes.
one of the biggest hiccups when dealing with an estate is just not knowing what some things are and just not having the background, the historical knowledge. So, what advice would you give to families, to those who are working to get all their estate planning affairs in order? So what would you advise them to do when with their personal property for as part of estate planning?
So definitely talk it over with your estate advisor. Make sure that the things that you believe are valuable are accounted for. Often it can begin with just a good inventory list. This is something that you could create. You could task a friend or a grandchild to just go around and do a photo inventory of your house. You could certainly engage an appraiser to do this. So it kind of depends on what you have. If you are a collector and you've got important paintings or furniture or things that need to be accounted for, it might be a good idea to bring in an expert. But if you just have nice stuff that you've acquired over the years and you just want to make sure that it's taken care of, then maybe doing your own photo inventory or list would be a good idea. But certainly speak to your financial planner or whoever handles your estate matters to find out exactly what you need to do before planning. It's not a bad idea to bring someone in to really advise you on what's exciting at auction, what's not. If it's things that make sense to sell during your lifetime, again, that's going to be a conversation that you want to have with your tax advisor and how for those sales. But certainly after someone has passed away and maybe an executor of an estate or a family member is coming in to figure out what's going on, that's certainly when you want to engage an expert, someone who kind of take a step back and with an unbiased, unbiased, look at what you have and what would make sense to go to auction or get donated or remain in the family, and knowing where you are for values, I think is really important. Then you can start making decisions. And don't wait. Don't wait. I can't tell you how often I get calls where they're like, okay, the house is closing this week and everything needs to be out. Or, next week movers come. Can you be here in an hour? And that's not always realistic for the person trying to engage. So wait, get it taken care of now. And also, any paperwork that you have with items, any documentations, should go into a file where you keep your will or other hard copies, or if you have everything electronically, put that there. I love it when I take a painting off the wall and on the back of it, there might be a gallery label or some type of a receipt from an auction house purchase. People keep that paperwork physically with the property. That way, anyone who walks in a situation will know exactly what it is and say, oh, we don't want that painting to go to Goodwill. That's one we need to have look at.
Oh, this one may be worth taking an extra look at. So and I think that that's so important. And I know it's something that you're always going to put to the bottom of your to-do list. But if you've spent a lifetime collecting furniture and art and just anything in your house, there may be things that you think are less valuable than they really are. Just writing it down, having some sort of detail on it, so your family or your executor or friends afterwards will just have some clues of what to do with it. Super, super valuable. And I can help be your accountability partner putting together that inventory list. It is, I think, one of the big blind spots of estate planning is getting that personal property inventory done.
Agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Kristin, if you've just joined us or you've joined us late, I'm with Kristin Vaughn of Hindman Auctions. And Kristin, how can people learn more about Hindman Auctions, connect with you? I have pinned the Insta handle here below, but how can people get in touch with you if they have that Renoir painting in their home that they want to get authenticated?
Well, my contact information is on our company website, and that's hindmanauctions.com. They're welcome to reach out directly to me in the Atlanta office. If you're somewhere else in the country and you happen to be watching this, the nice thing to know is that since we have 13 offices across the country, the chances of having a regional rep right in your area is very high. So certainly reaching out to where you think your nearest office might be. If you're unsure, go ahead, call me. I'll make sure to point you in the right direction. But we're always happy to help you, and you're always welcome to give us a call. I always encourage people to call because I would rather turn something down and lead you in a better direction versus maybe missing the opportunity to work with a client or
Absolutely. Kristin, you have given us so much great information. I really appreciate you sort of breaking down the process of working with an auction house, demystifying any, presumptions about working with an auction house, and just some great tips and calls to action for everybody out there to just look through your stuff, take photos. And if Kristin or I can help, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to help you get your stuff in order as best we can. Kristin, thank you again for joining me. This has been very, very fun.
Of course, thank you. I so appreciate you wanting me to join you.
Oh my gosh, no. I mean, we could totally nerd out about talking about diamonds all day, but we won't do that. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody. Tune in next week for our next episode of Aftershocks of After Loss, where we'll be talking about digital estate planning. So thank you again, Kristin, and everybody have a great Wednesday. Bye. Thank you.
See you later.